All right, so welcome to another episode of Flippin' SoFlo. I have my man John McSherry over here.
Hey guys.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Flying all the way in from New York, but you live here part-time now?
Part-time, half and half.
Typical snowbird,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Down to
young one.
Florida. COVID sealed his fate. That's
Yeah.
how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
So funny enough, John and I met, I don't know, 6 years or plus maybe ago, but online. Funny enough, this is the first time we're physically actually meeting, which is hilarious. But we've talked a lot throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in New York and we tried to coordinate, but it never
work.
happened because he's just too cool for me. And he was showing some house, I don't know, some $1 million house that you're probably doing up there. But you have a traditional real estate background. Mm-hmm. You've been in it a lot longer than me. And then, you kind of pivoted into investments and, flips and then some wholesales. And then now you're in South Florida. You're crushing it here from the listings I see that you have these. This is a typical McMansion in Florida, what I see that you have. You have some beautiful listings. So
thank you.
If you just want to start at the beginning, what got you started in real estate?
Sure.
I mean, we can just jump off there.
Sure, definitely. Well, I'll tell you my whole story, but I'll do it pretty quickly.
Do it.
2006, very difficult time of my life. It was actually right after my father passed away. I was in college and really put me into this whirlwind where I was working in nightclubs. I was like bartending, throwing parties, hosting events, and life just got the best of me and graduated college. And within a couple months, basically became broke, homeless, and addicted to alcohol and other stuff. But really, I was just living this party life, but it just got so out of control that I was just depressed and really just had this void within me that I was trying to fill, it with all external things, and I just couldn't get enough of anything. So that went on for some time until I basically had nothing left. And I called my aunt up in New York because I was living in Philly at the time. And I called my aunt and I was like, Lisa, can I come to New York for 2 weeks? I just have to get back on my feet and figure things out. Graduated college, but I need to get a job. And she welcomed me with open arms.
Wow.
And I'm forever grateful for that moment. But at the same time, I wasn't ready to get help. And by living there and being influenced by her, I eventually got some help and went into a 12-step program. And that program gave me a design for living because I didn't know how to live. I knew how to party, throw great parties. I was good at school, but I just didn't know how to live a life that I should have been living. So what that program taught me was, it taught me, for one, humility, right? It humbled the crap out of me, right?
Oh, you can curse if you want.
Yeah. So because when I was out there partying, I mean, I overdosed 3 times. I was resuscitated back to life. I mean, it was bad. I had hospital bills more than you could imagine. And I was really in a bad place. And thankfully, by the grace of God, my aunt gave me a place to take a step back and humble myself and put my life together. So the interesting part is the only way that I got better was by going out and helping other people. So I'd have to go to rehabs, jails, meetings, and just find people to help, to share this message with people. The more people I helped get sober, the better I got. It's kind of an interesting process, but I learned how important service was in serving other people in that moment, and it pretty much shaped the rest of my life. So right after I got sober, I ended up getting a job in Manhattan working as a product designer, which was what I went to school for, and I was happy. I was like, this is great. But over time, I became this obsession with real estate. I was watching HGTV, Flip or Flop, and all those TV shows.
Don't we all?
And I was like, that looks really cool because I came from a design background. So I was like, I want to do that someday. I want to buy a house. I want to start flipping houses. So basically lived in my aunt's garage for 5 years, saved every penny that I had, and I bought my first condo in 2011. Great time to buy, right? It was the bottom of the market. It was the bottom, because things started in 2008, and I watched that entire process, right? And then it hit rock bottom, and I ended up buying that condo. But right after I bought that condo, I went to a Rich Dad Poor Dad conference, and I learned about flipping houses.
Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Back at it again.
Yeah, it just changed my whole perspective. I was like, I just spent 5 years living in a garage saving for this house condo, which now I have to sell and go out and buy assets. So
it's funny how that works.
And I learned that I could have bought that condo a lot sooner, but I wanted to have 30% down, and I had all these beliefs that weren't necessarily true at that time. So I ended up selling that condo and became a real estate agent because I was like, well, I'm going to sell it myself, save some money. So I became an agent, and in that process, I ended up picking up some buyers, and I helped them buy properties. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Because what I did was I really just approached it from a service perspective. I was out there to serve people. I was building rapport as they came into the house. And I was like, I really like this. And I ended up doing really well. And it was just from building relationships with people. So that went on. And eventually I was like, this is great. I love real estate. I love talking to people. My full-time job, I was just sitting at a desk all day, and it was just sucking the soul out of me. So I knew that I wanted to get into real estate full-time. So just time went on, kept flipping houses, kept wholesaling. I think that's around the time that we met. I think it was probably like 2018, 19.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And that's when I made the jump to go full-time in real estate as a real estate agent and a real estate investor. And I just kept buying houses in New York, kept selling houses as a broker because I became a broker shortly after. And then when COVID hit, I decided to get my Florida license. I was like, I have nothing else to do. We're not allowed to show houses. It was actually illegal for me to meet a client at the house during COVID. So
good old New York.
New York was crazy, and I'm sure you heard. So Florida was like paradise for me.
Yeah, we had COVID for like 2 seconds. Yeah. No masks. It was awesome.
Nothing, right?
It was great.
So like I was like fully masked, fully like gloves and everything, trying to show houses. It was
you guys
just
had passports and everything.
Everything.
Little COVID vaccine passports.
Everything. Ridiculous. It was a disaster. And so I decided to get my Florida license at that moment. And just for the last 5 years, I've just been building that business on the wholesale side, on the investing side, on the agent side. Now I'm 50-50. I also have a wholesale business in Tampa with a partner of mine. So I kind of just bounce around to those 3 locations: New York City, Fort Lauderdale, and Tampa.
That's awesome. Well, you said a lot. So I'll start at the beginning. So
sure.
I think it's awesome, number one, that you can openly speak about, what happened for you. I don't believe anything happens to 100%. You. I definitely believe it happens for you.
I agree.
I did not have quite the story, but I haven't had alcohol, and I'm coming up on 2 years now, because I was on a fork in the road where, my success kind of made me feel like, oh, well, I could do anything. And, the void, I had a really bad partnership at that time. I know now, hindsight's 2020. I was trying to fill a void that was unfillable, as no matter how many nights out I had. And I was a dipshit in between, but I was very successful in my business. So, the mentality of like, oh, well, I'm still doing my shit, so you can't tell me anything. But it's crazy when you do, and I'm not saying it's for everybody, and not everybody needs to be sober. I don't judge anybody for it. Just for me, the amount of clarity and the amount of anxiety that's left my life, there's I was already a hard driver before. What I've noticed about guys like us is we're obsessive personalities one way or another. So that does not leave. That goes somewhere, Right. So the thing is, become obsessed with good habits, right? So usually those guys I've noticed, you become extremely obsessed with the gym. Right. You become extremely successful in business because now, you're cold calling, you're doing this or whatever. So it's like that skill or that attribute transfers to something else. And of course, the clarity is incredible. So I love that, dude. I commend the shit out of you for it. Not a lot of people would say that. And that's authenticity. And I think that's why, it's funny when you said to serve people, ever since I started making content, really it was to help people. I didn't want to do it when I first started out, but it was to help people, to show them my path and how I was able to do it. And, if I could do it, I mean, anybody could do it. Right. And, but it does come with a lot of hard work and consistency.
That's true.
But you started off on the retail residential side. I got started in 2017. You got started in 2011, really. So a couple of interesting things you said. You already owned that condo. And now you're like, all right, this is the path, which is traditional limiting beliefs, 30%, this whole thing. Which is awesome, but you don't know what you don't know. Then you go to this rich dad, poor dad thing. It was like, all right, that's stupid. You got to go in the opposite direction.
Scratch everything.
Scratch everything for 5 years. By the way, that's entrepreneurship. Something you thought was the right thing, and then boom, you learn something else.
Yep.
Now you pivot, which again, that's what I see. You have the ability to pivot. That's probably one of the most key factors into being successful
100%.
With anyone. When COVID hit for me, we were wholesaling and we were starting to wholesale quite a bit. We had to pivot hard and we doubled and tripled down on marketing. And if it wasn't for that, I saw a lot of people exiting. I decided to, double and triple down.
Right.
The next year we had our biggest year ever. And it's because there was no competition left in the marketplace. We'd eaten so much market share. So when you're operating in different spheres, right? When you put on the retail hat, you have to be, because you're doing high-end luxury, right? Mostly. Mostly. Yeah. So when you're doing that is a totally different clientele. That's a totally different need. That's a totally different want, right? Buyer, seller, right? Totally different conversations. I've never done it, but I've been around it enough where that's totally different. Then when you go into the wholesale side, I'm interested to know what your role is in that business, because that's totally different. Now you got distressed sellers. It's totally different. The buyers are cash buyers trying to get the lowest price. It's a very fast-paced transaction. Typically, luxury kind of moves at a different pace, right? There's a lot of thoughts into it.
Yeah.
Big ticket items, right? I don't know what your average home price is, but and then your own flips. That's a totally different business. Like that's high risk.
Yeah.
That's debt. Now you're in the project and it's designed, which you have a background for. I can't stand fixing flips. That's just me. Yeah. But again, it's just I'm man enough to admit it. It was just not my thing.
Right.
How do you just cycle through that? Because not everybody could do that.
Sure. Well, good question. And I will go back to what I learned in that program is that really it's about serving people. And also at my first job, I realized this as well. I treat the CEO the same way that I treat the janitor, right? And it's about being a chameleon and not being fake, but being able to ask the right questions, to be able to build rapport, to be able to mirror, to be able to mirror body language and tonality, and really be able to connect with people. And that's really the secret of it all, because it has nothing to do with the real estate. It's about the people. Yeah. And if you're able to connect with people and serve them on the deepest, most meaningful level, anything is possible. So I'll jump on a call with a $20 million buyer, and I'll jump on a call with someone that's suffering and struggling, and they're losing their $200,000 property in Tampa. And it's really just about asking the right questions and really understanding on a deep level of how I can serve this person. Right. And really caring, right? And really building good rapport and continuing that. It's not just about getting the sale and then moving on. It's about how can you continue to serve this person throughout the entire process so that now they want to refer everyone in their family to you. So for me, it's just been that relationship business. And I think, for one, just to touch on what you said about, the program and everything, or just about going through addiction, I feel like it is a blessing in disguise, right? Because like you touched on, it's like, it's that addictive personality, it could actually be a benefit. Yeah. So I feel like a lot of the tools and attributes that we have are an unfair advantage and a benefit and a blessing to this sensitivity we have, the ability to emotionally connect with people, the ability to regulate our emotions, right, quickly. And because I walk into places where someone died in that house that day. And that might even be a retail sale. It's not necessarily always an investment property. I help people deal with death, divorce, and all kinds of difficult situations. And having that humility and that ability to connect on such a deep emotional level has helped me, and it has also helped me understand other people and help them navigate through difficult times. So I know that was a lot, but it's really just about connecting with people, building a relationship, and just serving them the entire process. And it all comes back to you. Yeah.
So you're not even focused on the end result. You're focused on what does this person need. And I always say that, people will tell you exactly who they are and exactly what they need if you just listen. Most people I found in my career, and I was never a natural at it. I had to learn that, still learning that skill. Most people just want to be heard. Right. A lot of people, whether it's a $20 million guy or the $200,000 guy or girl, the reality is that person's going through something, and that person, that choice is coming from somewhere. Right. And the more you can listen to that and figure that out, the easier your job becomes. Right. And the higher likelihood it is that you get a referral or a repeat or whatever. Right. In the wholesale side, it's interesting because on the sell side, you typically rarely see a referral. For sure. Because it's a one and done kind of thing. Right. But on the buy side of the wholesale, there's always repeat business. Always. Investors. Yeah. And I always tell guys, I'm like, look, you guys treat your buyers list like it's a booty call. Right. You bang the buyers list every single time you got a deal. That's the only time, right? You don't connect with these people any other time. Right. But those buyers are also sellers. Sure. Those flippers, they might have a distressed asset that they're negative equity on the hard money. Right. We see that on the lossment side. So that's a great opportunity for that. But it's interesting because you're like one of the few people that I've ever seen be able to navigate between all of them. Right. Is there one that you personally just prefer than the other? It's really difficult, but let me tell you why it's easy for me personally. When I was coming up in my entrepreneurial journey, I was doing too many things. I was a designer. I was buying and selling Subway restaurants. I was a real estate agent. I was becoming an investor. And I was wearing too many hats. I was in too many different places. Yeah. Now that it's all in real estate, it's all in one place.
it just makes sense to me personally, and I love every part of the process. And I also get bored very easily, and I can't sit still. So I need to have these different sources of business, but not only from a personal fulfillment perspective, but also from being diverse. I feel like when certain markets are down, when interest rates are high and people aren't buying a lot of real estate, I'm flipping more houses or I'm doing more wholesale and vice versa. So for me, it works. I love them all the same, but I also invest in good people. So I have good partnerships. I have good staff. I have a great VA, a good COO who helps me operate my business. So I feel like if it wasn't for the people around me, I wouldn't be able to operate these businesses.
Right.
That's the only reason it's possible. And it allows me the ability to love them all equally. Otherwise, if I didn't have help and the right partners, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Let me ask this a different way. Which one naturally invigorates you more? You can't give me a political answer here.
It's going to
be okay. It's going to be okay. It's not New York. You don't have to be political here.
That is true.
Florida, we can say whatever the hell we want.
I am.
DeSantis.
Yeah.
All right. That's an ad.
I would say from an aesthetic standpoint, the visual aesthetics of selling high-end real estate in like Fort Lauderdale and Miami, selling $20 million, $30 million properties, that's sexy, that's fun, it's beautiful. You can look at the craftsmanship that went into it. So because I am a designer and purely creative and visual person at heart, that is probably more appealing. But those kind of deals are also far and few between.
Sure.
Whereas the wholesale, we're selling sometimes 2 to 5 properties a week, sometimes a couple a month. It really depends on what's going on and how many leads we're bringing in. So one's really just about money and one's really about passion and aesthetics. So if we're thinking about it from just like that, like drive, I would say more the luxury real estate is more visually appealing, and I do come from a very visual place.
Yeah. Which one have you found to be, well, let's do this. There's 3 businesses there. So you have wholesale, you have the luxury, and you have the regular fix and flip, right? You're not flipping high-end luxury, I would imagine.
I've done a couple $1 to $2 million deals in Brooklyn, like brownstones or
that's typical over there.
Yeah, it's typical. But a lot of the flips that we usually do in Long Island, where it really is the bread and butter, or Queens, is really that $300,000 to $500,000 purchase price and selling for like $600,000 to $900,000. That's really the sweet spot for the flips.
So what's one for each? Just a short snippet, but what's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody for each of those businesses? Best piece of advice you could give.
All right, so let's start with the flipping. I mean, really don't over design it, but you also make your money when you buy. I mean, that's the number one rule, but we all know that, right? If you don't buy right, you can never make up for it later. And I see it happen to new investors all the time. They just don't buy right. They get excited about the deal. They overspend on the purchase. They over renovate. So really it's just about knowing your numbers. And if you need to get a mentor or work with another investor, like one of us in New York or Florida, to get your first investment deal off, or maybe JV with one of us on a deal, I think that's the best way to start instead of just trying to figure it out. When I did my first flip in Long Island, I actually bought it with a 5% down loan. It was a $300,000 purchase in Valley Stream. And I paid for the renovation in cash, managed the entire job, spent $65,000, and then sold it for $550,000.
Nice.
But I was like deeply involved. I was, still working full time, but I was but I also studied for 5 years prior, right?
Yeah.
And I was very obsessive about that studying. So unless you've studied it extensively, I wouldn't jump into a flip alone. I would work with somebody on your first deal.
We're going to have to edit that out, huh? What was that? A race car? Jesus.
Jeez.
It was like a Challenger, just like a Hellcat. Good for you, buddy. Back after the commercial. So, all right, let me go back here. So you said like 4 things, which is awesome, but mentor.
Yep.
Figuring out not to over design it.
Correct.
And you had studied for 5 years before, which again, I did not do it that way. I got cannonballed into it. It was a little different. But I think you just always, anytime we talked, I feel like I always saw you, on your Instagram and stuff like that. You always just had something going, right? Which is great. We were talking off camera, imperfect action.
Yes.
And,
that's key.
For those of you that don't know, I mean, it looks super clean by the time you watch this, but there was a lot of bloopers before this.
A lot.
But again, I told you when you walked in, I'm like, man, listen, we're still figuring this thing out, all right? So, but imperfect action there's a lot to be said about that. And I think you've been in this now, what, 13 years, 14 years?
Probably about that.
Yeah. So I'm coming up on 9 almost. it's certainly enough time to have seen people come and go.
Yeah.
Especially in New York and here,
Mm-hmm.
where two totally different markets, by the way. But the fact that you can always just move and pivot and you know, one foot in front of the other,
Mm-hmm.
that to me is probably the best attribute that anybody can have.
For sure.
I used to have a mentor that said, you know, it's a short-term memory, next play, right? You just got to forget about what happened. I know it's hard, but you're going to mess it up again. There's 100%. No question.
And something that I just want to say about that is that if you emotionally get caught up in, oh, like I lost this didn't work out, you're going to be closed off to that next opportunity. You have to find a way to get out of whatever you're going through, right? Get into a peak state at any moment and just be ready for that next deal. Be ready for that next relationship. I meet people at the coffee shop. I meet people, you know, at events that I do deals with.
Yeah.
I bought a huge deal in Howard Beach, Queens from someone that I met at the coffee shop when I was there with my son. But I was in the right mindset. So to your point, it's like, yeah, things happen, but how do you stay in a peak state most of the time so that you're able to receive the new opportunities coming to you?
Yeah, look, I'm a big law of attraction guy.
Me too.
I've been doing affirmations for 7 years straight. They've changed over time. But like one of my first affirmations is I'm going to be a millionaire, or I am a millionaire. And then it became I am a multi-millionaire. There is something to be said about that. But like Jim Carrey says, you know, you can't just go eat a sandwich. You know, you actually have to put in a massive amount of work, which I think is something that is extremely overlooked. The residential luxury resi side, you know, the agent side, I have a lot of friends that, you know, have been in that space, yourself included. That's a tough business. That is not an easy business. I've never been in it, but I know how cutthroat that can be. And there's only so many luxury properties for X amount of agents. You know, you're always in a service business, but at that level, you're in a really specific service business. Like those buyers at a $20 million house. That's a good question. How does that buyer that's buying a $20 million house, let's say, because that is a massive purchase for him or her, maybe it's not, right? But how does that buyer differ in your opinion? Like, what do you notice different about that person that you don't see at the $1 million point? Maybe mindset wise.
Mindset wise. Yeah, it's very different. The clients that I have, they know what they want. Like they're walking through, it's not their first rodeo. They've bought a lot of real estate before. They own a lot of real estate usually, but they understand it on a very deep level and they make decisions very quickly. That's something that I noticed. Like I have this one buyer, we're looking for a waterfront $20 million property in Miami. He's very specific about what he wants. He only wants certain streets, certain builds, certain materials. He's willing to do work, but up to a certain point, and he's willing to wait. He's patient. He's just waiting for that right opportunity. And he doesn't just make, you know, emotional decisions. They're very strategic, but he knows exactly what he wants and he acts quick. So he's like, if you show me the right deal, I'm ready to move on it. Like today, he's ready.
Is that cash or is it finance or what?
It's cash.
Yeah.
But he has a very specific way of moving that cash. It's like he's taking a line of credit based on the money he has.
I love it.
So it's very smart with the way he moves money.
Yeah.
You know,
what does he do for a living? Just out of curiosity.
This guy specifically owns a clothing company, but he's more of an import. So he services other brands and just brings in like private label.
No kidding.
So yeah,
big bucks. Yeah,
and big money.
See, the even the more serious I've gotten in my career, and I'm interested to know, but I'm sure it's the same for you. The more money you make, and the more success you have, I have become a lot more. No one ever told me this coming up, where you think that those people make a lot of that money because they say yes to a lot of things, and the reality is they actually say no to most things. And that's what I've found. Like it's interesting because you said he knows exactly what he wants and he's patient.
Right.
So what I hear is clarity. He has no rush because he doesn't need to.
Right.
And when it happens, when the opportunity presents itself, he's ready to slam the hammer.
Right.
That's super important. I think in life and in business as a whole. I always look at the universe like as a mail house, right? If it was like a post office, most people are pissed half the time because they're getting everybody else's mail and they're getting crap in their life. And the reason is you didn't even have enough clarity to put your name on the box. So the universe to me will send you, like when you're always bouncing from one thing to another, you know, like a squirrel with a nut, right? Shiny penny and all that stuff. Dude, the universe sees that and they're like, well, he's gonna take anything. So let's just put that piece of mail in there.
Right.
The other people that are much more dialed in and much more clear, those people get exactly what they want typically. And it might take longer, right? Like I ate shit for a long time before I got exactly what I wanted and then some. And then I had to eat shit again, right? And revisit and pivot. But I'm very, very clear nowadays. Exactly. I'm more clear about what I don't want than what I want. If that makes any sense.
It does.
You know, do you see that in your life too?
I do. And in different businesses, to touch on the clarity for my wholesale business in Tampa, I'm grateful for my partner who we exchange ideas consistently. I'm more of the overall idea because I have a little bit more experience. He's more of the operations side, and we work really well together. We just operate differently and we complement each other. And there's times that I might get off track or he might get off track, and we kind of keep each other focused on that goal, right? So we want to grow this into acquiring large multifamily in the future. But right now we keep coming back to let's stick with the basics. Let's keep building our systems and processes. Let's keep hiring the right people. Let's keep just building and growing this wholesale side of the business. And when we're ready, we'll grow into other areas. So we've been hyper-focused in that sense. For the agent side, I found that because I built a real estate team, I'm able to help them, right, by giving them buyers to work with. So I'm not running around as much, and I'm able to focus more on my listings and more on my sellers. So it's just making those decisions. Another thing you spoke about was the social media content. I've also become very careful about what I'm putting out there, right? Because we also want to put out the right brand. Branding's important. So if you want to sell more $20 million homes, don't just post $200,000 flips.
Sure.
So it's being mindful of that, knowing who your audience is and how to appeal to them, and also how to serve them and giving your audience what they want. So I have been becoming more and more aware of my brand, what I'm putting out there, the business I want, the business I don't want, but also helping the people around me.
Right. I think if I recall correctly, forgive me if I'm wrong, but a long time ago we spoke, I think you were in the office or you had proximity to like Ryan Serhant or somebody from that era.
Back in the day, Ryan Serhant was at a different company at that time. I was actually in the same office as Frederick Eklund. He was Eklund
Guy's a beast. Team. Yeah.
And back then he was only in New York. And since then he's grown into Miami. He's grown into Florida, into Texas. And he built a massive team to where they're bringing in like, I think their gross sales, not commissions, is like $4 billion a year.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Very smart guy.
A team of 50 agents, but very smart guy. Ryan Serhant since then has also blossomed, split off from Nest Seekers, started his brand Serhant, and has grown that. I have a lot of friends that work for him personally in different markets like Long Island, Miami, and so forth, and Manhattan.
Right.
So, yeah.
In your industry, I mean, what do you think separated them to really get to where they got to?
One, the TV show helped, but they took that and they expanded on it because there's some people that were on the show that didn't expand on it. I think they were very entrepreneurial and they knew what they wanted to do. They were hyper-focused on just luxury real estate, and that's all they did. Yeah. And that's all they know, because I've talked to them before on ideas of investing and stuff like that, and they really don't have any interest in developing and stuff like that. Like, they focus on what they want to do, and they're very good at it.
Yeah, I always say keep the main thing the main thing. And, you know, I learned that from a mentor, and I've bounced around even with reverse flip. You know, when we first started, we thought it was going to be one thing. It was very close, but we ended up finding a lot of other things through the process. Right. Like short sales is a huge thing for us. Huge. Which is probably one of the most unsexy terms in real estate. Yeah. I love them. Yeah. I never thought I would say that. Not even live on camera, but I absolutely love them because I got out of wholesaling because I was tired of it. You know, not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, again, I never started in real estate with a finite timeline attached to it. Like, for example, when I first got started in real estate, I told my mom, and I remember like it was today, I said, I'm going to be the best at this. I'm going to be the best wholesaler in Florida. But I never said I'm going to be the best in the next 3 years. You know, I never had a timeline attached to it. I guess my mentality was always, I was willing to work at it as long as it possibly took to become the best. Right. I think I earned that title for sure. You know, the stats speak for themselves. But again, I got tired and I was just done, man. And, you know, again, I don't really do much coaching anymore unless it's like the school community, which is one to many, but we deal partner with everybody. Because at some point in my career too, I realized collaboration over competition it is the way that wealthy people do it. You know, Jeff Bezos owns less than 10% of Amazon. I mean, Musk, very similar percentages, right? How do you explain that? They're still the wealthiest people in the world. It's because they know that they have to collaborate, because he can't be shipping boxes and doing all that stuff, right? At a certain point. So for me, man, I always like to zig when others zag. And you know, one thing I've always seen with you is you come from this space, but you're never labeled that way. You know, most of those guys stay there, and it's like, all right, this is what I am, and this is it, which is great, because if that's what you want to be and that's what you want to do the best at it. You know, when I really started cranking and wholesaling, I didn't really I never did anything else. But outside of real estate, I never did any other business in the last 8 years. You know, even when I started to coach, which was ass backwards, I never got into it. Like I got into it because somebody asked me to do it, not because we launched the business. We launched a business after it. I'm just entrepreneurial. Sure. I saw the gap, obviously, especially with Spanish, but I've never done anything outside of real estate, you know, for almost 9 years. Which again, it's the way I did it, and you know, you too. It's just real estate, right? You're like what I'm saying is, you would never see me, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, you're not gonna see me that I did Forex and I did Amazon and crypto, and now I'm a crypto bro, and real estate too, and you know, I've seen a lot of guys bounce around to that, and that's cool, man. You usually don't see a lot of success with that, right? A 10,000 hour rule. The right 10,000 hours is a real thing. Right. You know what I'm saying? Sure. So today, like, you're involved in a lot, obviously. Today, what does like a day-to-day look like for you?
You know, I try to spend my day on the offense, not on the defense, right?
That's key.
It's key.
See, he's not playing not to lose. He's playing to win. Right. It's a big difference there. Right. Sorry.
No. That's huge. And it's important to nail that home, because when I first started in the business, I was letting other people control my schedule. Appraisers, inspectors, complaints from something a team member did or whatever. Right now I focus on, you know, every morning at 9 a.m. we have a team huddle with my wholesale team. Every day I'm checking in with my real estate team, checking in with my contractors on the flips. And it's really just about prospecting, bringing in more leads, really focusing on that offense. But every day, personally, I start off, hit the gym every morning, no matter what, right? I feel like we need to be in a peak state. And in order to do that, we have to eat healthy. We have to get our mind right. We have to get our body right. And really just checking in with the team and building out the right systems. Like I mentioned, I have a good COO now, and she operates everything. She's on all my emails, just about all work emails. And she just makes sure that everything is aligned, where I could just focus on new business and relationships. And every day is a little different, right? And I'm also in different areas. I'm usually in New York 1 week and Florida 1 week. So no day is ever the same. It's really just about just getting out there, connecting with more people, bringing in more business, you know, and checking in with the teams. Yeah.
So you're focused on revenue generating activities.
Pretty much.
Yeah. You're not doing
every day.
Yeah. You don't build a $10 million business off $10 task.
Right.
That's just what it is.
And one more thing that I want to add, it's really like, I really want to hone in on those relationships, right? So it's about putting yourself in the right circle. So if you're not happy with, we can get granular and say the 5 people around you are going to pretty much like create, you know, who you want to become. But also I'm constantly networking and reaching out and going to new events in areas that I'm not comfortable with, like going to events in the Hamptons at like a $20 million, $100 million home. I may not know anyone, but I'm going with one friend, or I may go to an event alone to really just meet people and network. So I think it's stepping outside your comfort zone and meeting new people. That's something I try to do often. And something else that I wanted to mention is that you talked a lot about pivoting. That's every day. That's a big part of our business, is it's finding comfortability and being uncomfortable. So every day things are going to happen, but we just have to consistently push through and find joy in being uncomfortable every day and just meeting new people, having new conversations.
Yeah. I said to somebody on my team the other day, I said, or actually it was on the school call, my call with them. And I said, you know, I've never, 800 transactions later or so, I've never been able to buy a house that I didn't make an offer on. and they kind of just like all stared at me. I'm like, guys, what I'm saying is, if you don't talk to people, you're never gonna buy houses.
Yeah,
okay. Like we can learn how to underwrite, and I can teach you how to run comps, and I can teach you how to look for hair and the short tail and the bank and who's the servicer and all this amazingly important technical bullshit. If you're not willing to pick up the phone and talk to Sally, who's in pre-foreclosure, it ain't gonna matter. That's it. Right? Because Sally can tell you to go pound sand right away on the phone. Yeah. And all your underwriting goes poof, in the air. Exactly. Right. So I always feel, man, especially the newer guys and girls, they're doing so much. I call it mental gymnastics because I know a lot of guys have used that term. I call it something else, but I won't say it here because it's just a little bit vulgar. But mental gymnastics is a real thing, man. Huge. And we all do it on all levels. Yeah. I know I've done it at different tiers in my career. Dude, we just think about the activity so much that we don't do it. Right. Isn't that funny? Yeah, that's true. Like when people think a lot about like, well, what time do you go to the gym? Well, what do you do at the gym? And when do you stretch? And when do you do cardio? And the cold plunging? I'm like, dude. I just show up, bro.
You just get there.
Okay. Is what I wake up at 4:30. Somehow, some way, the fucking car drives itself, and boom, I'm at Lifetime, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm tired, but I'm here. So I might as well get this thing in. Right. And then I intentionally go there, and I feel great about it. How do you stay consistent? What's the best way you found to stay consistent? Because you seem like a really consistent guy. I
am, and consistency, I believe, is a big part of my success. It's like before COVID, I was waking up at 5:10 every morning, hitting the gym every morning. But then, school schedule changes for my son, or this changes, but I'm still consistent. No matter what, it's a non-negotiable thing. And for me, it comes from a place when I was like 13 years old. I was already working out at home, and I was in gym in school. So it's part of my lifestyle, which I believe being healthy, the gym has to be part of your lifestyle, or you're not going to go. A lot of people, they get caught up in the new trainer or the new diet or this or that, which to me it's good if it gets you there, but you have to stay consistent. You have to make it a non-negotiable, make it part of your life. You have to get there. But discipline and consistency is pretty much, that's it. Just, I feel like also success is about doing the mundane things over and over and over again and finding joy in it, right? Or
that's key, dude.
That's key. Like that's finding joy in the process and all those things that nobody else wants to do.
You nailed it.
And I always tell people that I'm not coaching, but if I'm speaking to some new agents at Douglas Elliman, the brokerage I work for, I say, listen, it's like cold calling is like waking up every morning and verbally getting punched in the face, but looking forward to it. It's like you need to wake up and look forward to that.
Good point.
It's going to happen. Someone's going to yell at you. Some people just want to kick the cat. And unfortunately, sometimes you're the cat. It's like you just got to find joy and just know and have fun with it. Yeah. It's really about how can you dissipate that conversation? How can you make someone laugh quickly? How can you build commonality and build that relationship quickly and get them to calm down? Or maybe they may not calm down, but just move on to the next one. It's like make those calls like you said. It's like you just got to do it.
Yeah. Dude, you nailed it, bro. The unsexy stuff is, if I had to boil it down to one thing, which is damn near impossible, because I'm sure you get this question all the time, what's the one thing that got you here? It's just such a silly question, honestly. Yeah. I don't believe in stupid questions, but that one's really up there. I mean, that one tests the limits. But dude, you have never met in your life someone who's more willing to do the mundane bullshit for an extended period of time more than me. And I know you're very, very much the same. If you can do that, and you can somehow, some way trick yourself or whatever it is, or actually, I mean, I'm a little bit of a sicko, get cynical with it and just enjoy it, look forward to it, like the cold plunge. A lot of people think I love the cold plunge. I am a little bit of a sicko. Cold water doesn't really bother me that much, but there's nothing fun about 34 degree water for 2 to 3 minutes at any time, with the sun out, without the sun out, whether I wake up feeling great or I wake up tired, there's nothing fun about it. For sure. There's never a time where I walk up to the cold plunge and I'm like, man, this is going to be sick. I'm never like, some days it's easier than others. Some days I just stare at it just like another human. Yeah. I think about things just like you, and I'm sure you do too. Damn, I don't want to make this call. Yeah. I really don't want to. But but you just pick up the phone and do it, right? And if you do that enough, that's the secret. Right. How much lag time do you have in between? How much time do you allow yourself to negotiate with yourself, and then boom, you do it.
That's it. Yeah. I actually had a situation like that today. There was someone I just didn't want to call. I'm like, I just don't feel like making this call right now. 3 minutes before I'm at this destination. I just don't want to do it. But I'm like, screw it. Just picked up the phone and called. So it's like, and it wasn't even a good or a bad call. I just didn't feel like making the call. Just like, I was like, I'd rather listen to my music right now. But I was like, make the call. But I want to give you another example, which talks about, or it's kind of a testament to what we're talking about. When I first started getting my life together, and I'm sitting on a bus, or I'm sitting on a train, which I couldn't even afford to get on, right? And I'm going to my internship in Manhattan, which I wasn't even getting paid. So I was paying to go to the job. That's how bad I wanted
For free.
it. For free.
Yeah.
Which they were not paying. They were grateful to see me, but they were not paying me.
Yeah.
Although they hired me like right away, which I didn't know at the time. But the point is I was excited to be there. I was grateful to be wanted to be somewhere. And I had faith. And that faith in knowing that something bigger was going to happen in the future is what kept me locked in. The program, whatever, if it's God, a higher power, whatever you may have, if it's your future, your family, I don't care if it's a rock or the universe, you need to have faith in something, right?
Yeah.
And there is something, there's always some blind faith knowing that there's something bigger tomorrow, something is great is going to happen. Because for me, I had nothing to be excited about. I had no money, lost my license. My car was sitting rusting in my aunt's house. I had nothing to be excited about, but I found deep within that faith. I was consistent. I kept showing up, right? Like you said, show up. Just show up. Things start happening. I show up to meetings and things just start happening.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they may shy away from going, or they're like, what value do I have going to that meeting? And they don't go. But so faith is very important. But one other thing about showing up, I was coming to Florida about maybe 2 months ago, and I was asked to speak at this event. And I was like, I really don't want to go. I'm flying tomorrow morning. I had to get a haircut. There were all these things that I just didn't get to do. I'm just like, I'd rather like do what I have to do to get to Florida and be on time. But I'm like, okay, I'm driving to Queens right now. I'm driving on the edge of Brooklyn, right? The streets are packed, and I drove a nice car there. I'm parked on the side of the street. I'm like, I really don't want to park my car here. It's raining. It's cold. It was in the middle of winter. Like, I just don't want to be here. But I go and I speak on stage. And when I got off stage, I ended up getting another $20 million referral.
Wow.
I don't want to go to that event. I didn't want to go speak for free
That's how it
to
happens.
a bunch of real estate agents about success or whatever. I was like, I'd rather just stay home, be warm, and go to Florida tomorrow. But instead, I just showed up.
Yeah.
And I take these opportunities, even if I have no idea. I had faith, knowing that I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew that I made a commitment and I showed up. That's it.
It's the mail house, man.
That's it.
The mail house just put that envelope in your box, you know, because you showed up.
That's it.
Dude, I wish I had a metric, and there's no way to ever know, but I wish I had a metric I wish there was a metric for all the situations that people could have had if they just would have shown up. If there was like a way to like play that reel for them, or that video, whatever, like this is what you could have been.
Yeah.
If you'd have just stopped being a bum, right? And just showed up.
It's that simple.
Dude, people would want to kill themselves if that was the case. Because I can tell you, man, on the days, and I don't know what that's about, but you know, just perseverance and all that, but like the law of attraction, but like on the days that I haven't particularly wanted to do this, and it could be something super small, like, hey, get up at the time that you usually get up.
Right.
You know, don't snooze, because again, I'm still human. Or go to the gym. It's just something small, or hey, make that extra call, whatever it is. Deal with that thing, whatever that thing is.
Right.
That conversation that you don't want to have. We all have them throughout the day.
Yep.
It's you know, most days it's Antonio for me. Poor guy, but you know, no, I'm just kidding. Wish you guys could see Antonio, because he's back there. He's like nodding. He's like, yeah, it's every day. No, but dude, every single day that happens, something phenomenal happens in my day.
Every time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
It's a new deal. It's a new this. It's a new that. It's a new relationship that leads to something bigger.
Right.
I don't know what that's about, but it really is true. It never, ever, ever ceases to amaze me.
Yeah.
I think that's just intention, dude.
Yeah. I agree.
I always tell people, man, I'm like, look, the fact that you're already here, wherever here is that I'm speaking at, or whatever that engagement is, the fact that you're already here, like if you're on, you know, we do a webinar every week. There was 131 people last week. And not that that's a lot or a little, but it was like 7:30 p.m. on what was it, Thursday, right? It was on a Thursday. And I told the people, I'm like, look, the fact that you're here at 7:30 p.m. on a Thursday tells me two things. Number one, you're not where you want to be in life financially. Because if you were rich, I'd have nothing to teach you.
Yeah.
Two, you care enough to be here at 7:30 p.m.
Right.
And you're not out getting shit-faced.
Right.
You could be doing something else. You could be watching Netflix, binge watching whatever, but you're here. So at least do yourself the courtesy of taking this shit seriously, because it very well might change your life.
100%.
Because it has for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're already willing to put yourself in that position, by default, your chances of winning just went up like 85%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. It's true. I mean, have you ever shown up to a property that you got the listing just because the other dipshit didn't show up or was late or whatever?
All the time.
Yeah.
I just showed up at a house yesterday in Fort Lauderdale. I had no idea. I was like, I don't know if we really want to buy this house or if we want to, like, I might list it. I just showed up. My partner and I jumped on a FaceTime call with the guy and we put in contract in 5 minutes.
For a flip.
Yeah.
Where at in Fort
Lauderdale? It's Wilton Manors.
Careful there.
Yeah.
Gotta be careful.
Well, it's actually a great Airbnb project. And
Wilton Manors is great. It's just got a lot of peacocks there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like physical peacocks. And
right.
then, see, this is why I'm going to get banned from places. Yeah. This is why. But Trump's back, baby. So we can say whatever we want. This is a show, dude. I don't hold my tongue back for nobody, bro.
I love it.
Nobody. Yeah. My family left communism. I can say whatever the fuck I want.
100%, dude.
100%.
It's a big leap.
It's a free country. It's a free country here. Antonio might mute my mic, but but I think I'm saying what I'm saying. Yeah. You know? So for anybody, I mean, out there to get in touch with you, or, you know, I mean, on social media, you're very big on social media, bigger than me as far as like followers and stuff. But you've been doing it for a long time.
I started creating content in 2015. I hired a coach, got me out of my shell.
No shit.
I just started creating.
10 years.
He was like, I want you to make cold calls and make videos every single day. I was like, those are two things I don't want to do. I was paying the guy. I gotta do it.
That's right.
So I hated every video, but I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And also reciprocating, like constantly reaching out to people, constantly commenting back, constantly reaching out at the beginning. And that's what really helped. But yeah.
10 years.
10 years
of
ago.
putting.
It's crazy hearing that.
So yeah, it is. You're wow, that's a long time. I think I might be on it now for 3 years. So, and I know
you're doing a great job.
Thank you. It's really this team. And I just show up, but I appreciate it. Dude, I remember for like a year and a half straight, I would do a live and like 2 people would show up and one of them was my mom. Like nobody wanted to hear me.
I know.
And you know, it's interesting because this is probably a good nugget for somebody. For example, you went from being top tier in one industry, then you got into wholesaling, for example. You really don't think about this shit, but you are now bottom of the totem pole. Doesn't matter.
Right.
What you did over there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like,
Starting over.
That's great, man. You played with the Lakers and you balled out. This is the Miami Heat. So the clock resets. You have stats. Right. It's great. You have experience, but nobody knows who the hell you are.
Right.
So for me, when I got onto content, I was like, I remember I'd be on lives, man, and inside my head, I was like, bro, I flipped so many houses. I'm like, nobody wants to listen to me. But it was humbling because it was bottom of the totem pole.
Sure.
And we put something out, 4 likes. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But 3 years of sticking with it, now, you know, it looks like, oh, wow. Some guy the other day told me, he's like, oh, man, you're crushing it on social media, dude. You came out of nowhere. I was like, yeah, 3 years ago. Of watching the stupid phone for 3 years.
They don't see that part.
What was it like for you? I mean, what kept you going with that?
Sure. Well, having those small successes, like I shot my first video from the cup holder of my car. I couldn't even look at the camera. I'm just like, yeah, this is John McSherry. If you want to, I'm going to look at a property right now. But I just did it and put it out there. And then one person was like, oh, I'm looking for a house. And then I was like, oh, this is actually working. And then I just kept doing it and doing it. And each time I got better. And I would also shoot those videos like 20 times until I got the one that I liked. And then I would post it. So practicing and then just being exposed to things and trying new things. And then just kind of proof of concept and trying more and more. And just a lot of years of doing it. But public speaking was probably one of the most fearful things for me.
Really?
Now I find joy in it. I also hired a speaking coach years ago, and then I started speaking on stage in front of 500 people, 1,000 people, speaking for realtors. I was the president of the YPN for the Long Island Board of Realtors, and like growing into these places of leadership, it kind of forced me to figure it out. But like I took small baby steps at first, and then exposing myself to more and trying more and doing stuff like this and just, you know, having fun with it. And also just documenting and not worried about being perfect. Going back to that, I would just document what I was doing. So it's life. It's not like we're shooting a commercial. How do you just document what you're doing? And that's my advice to people just starting out.
One of my biggest, I don't really have regrets, but one of my biggest things that I would look back on, if I could change, I would change, is all the years that we went from a home office, well, no office, to a home office, which we lived inside I lived inside a fix and flip that I over renovated in Fort Lauderdale and Edgewood.
Okay.
2 offices in the front bedrooms. I lived in the back bedroom.
Okay.
And that's just how we ran it for like a year. And we did $1.5 million in revenue out of there. I mean, it just goes to show you have no excuse. Then the first office, which was 100 square feet with 2 guys in it. Then the second office was just like 200 square feet. It was a big upgrade. And then the third office was like 1,000, and then it was 2,000, and then to this. But all throughout that, and the team going from 3 people to 27 people, down to nothing, down to restarting, down to here, the reverse flip, all that. I'm glad that the last 3 years have really been on video, but I only wish that the other 3 before that would have been, and it was something that I just was in my own head about. It would have been awesome to have seen. And I say that to any younger guys that I see or I work with. I'm like, dude, trust me. You might not think about it now, and I'm not old. I just turned 34, but I am older. And these little young Thundercats who are 23, 22, I'm like, I promise you, you will wake up at 28 and 30, and you'll cry sometimes when you watch that old video of yours 9 years ago, and you'll be like, oh shit, that was me. God, look at that guy. There's some emotional connection to that where you're like, I remember what I was going through in that. I remember my world felt like it was caving in, and look at me now. Like, it gives a lot of gratitude, man. I don't know about you, but.
Same. And I always repost my old stories on Instagram. Like, I love looking back at it. I love whether it's videos of my son when he was 4 years old or 3 or 5, and the conversations I was having with him then and where he is now as he's grown, but also my business and how I would shoot content and what I was thinking. So just what you said. And I also have conversations with people, and like, you could look back 10 years ago. I've been doing this for a long time, especially when it comes to like a listing. Like, I'm not a new real estate agent. I've been doing this for a while. Look back at my journey. You could see that I'm doing what I say I'm doing. So it kind of adds to that as well.
I think, 3.5 years ago, I made a post the other day where I was fat, right? And I was out of shape, and I was still drinking alcohol and all that stuff. I was very unhealthy overall. And, when people meet me today, not that I'm like the most fittest man on earth, but I do have visible abs, which is actually statistically is really hard to get. But anyway, I've worked really hard at that. Not that the abs is the point, but there is something to be said about the receipts that are shown up when I walk into a room, or when you walk into a room and you're physically in shape, you're cleaned up, your beard, your haircut, whatever. There's a lot, the way you dress and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of things, and I learned this from a guy, and it was so mind-blowing to me. He said, you can buy virtually anything, and you can fake almost anything. Like, for example, you could be a dipshit, buy a nice car. You could be a dipshit, rent a nice house. You could be a dipshit, buy a Rolex, right? Everyone's going to think, more times than not, you're very successful. You can't be a dipshit and buy abs. You can't be a dipshit and buy experience.
So true.
You can't. You can't be a dipshit and buy sobriety. Clarity.
No.
You can't be a dipshit and buy a good marriage. There are certain things that you can't be a dipshit and buy faith. There's certain things, man, that you either have it, and when you do have those things, it's like, that dude's busted his ass. I don't know how long it took him. I don't know if he's always been in shape, but he busted his ass.
I love that.
And those are the intangibles, because, you stack little wins, man, with confidence. I always say that self-confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. Little things, man, the little things, dude, people are so annoyed. They're like, God, you're so anal. And I'm like, I'm not anal, man. I just know that one little thing turns into 2 little things, and 2 little things are a little bit of a bigger thing, and a little bit of a bigger thing turns into a big thing, and now you got a thing.
Exactly.
And and then the thing is the thing. So man, I don't know, man. It's little wins stack up, dude.
I agree.
And over a 10-year, 15-year career, it's easy to look back and be like, man, that was a lot of wins, but it was an enormous amount of small wins and sacrifices. How old's your son now?
He's 10 years old. He's turned 11 in June. So
nice.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
So I've been able to see him grow through my social media journey as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember watching him when he was like a little kid. Now he's grown up. I mean, 11 is almost. He's a teenager now. Almost.
And one thing I do every morning is, I'm sure you've seen it, but I do morning wisdom quotes with him, and I've actually seen that make an impact on his life. Every morning we either read a quote, wisdom quote, scripture, or we talk about his ideas on how he feels about the day. And I've actually seen his positive self-talk has changed his life. And every morning I say, Thomas, what's today? And he says, it's a great day.
Oh, wow.
And I started training him on that when he was maybe 2-3 years old because
No
I
kidding.
want him to realize that no matter what happens throughout the day, it's a great day. Things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Shit happens.
Sure.
But what do you do about it?
Yeah.
How do you handle it? Be positive, be in a peak state, and let's handle it.
Yeah. So anything you want to, I mean, where can these people find you? What's the best place to find you?
Best place, probably Instagram. It's just my name, John.McSherry. That's JOHN.McSherry, McSherry. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And any parting thoughts you want to leave these people with?
It just stay consistent, have imperfect action, be grateful, and just, know that anything is possible. I think that we're both a great example of that, coming from difficult times of different scales. If you work hard, you're consistent, you're doing the right thing, and you're serving other people, anything is possible.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you
man.
coming out here, dude.
Thank you, brother.
really
I appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.